All right, guys, let's try something Mrs. McLean has never done before, and that's a video. So let's see if we can understand lesson 5.14 on angle relationships. I've got our vocabulary right here for us, talking about what a transversal is. And transversal basically is any two lines or even more that another line, a third, a fourth, a fifth, crosses all of the lines. So if I had a line that went like this, and I had another line that went like this, and then I had a third line that came through and crossed both of them like that, this one right here would be my transversal because it cut through two or more lines. Transversals are all good, but the ones we really like are this one right here, where it's a transversal that cuts through two parallel lines. And you know what parallel lines are. We've been working on those. So if I have a line that goes across here, and then I've got another line that goes across here, and let's name this one A and this one B. Those are what we call parallel lines. Now, there's no angles on those lines, they're just lines. But when another line comes and crosses both of them, now I do have angles. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 angles. And what I love about these is if you tell me just one of the angle measures, I can find all the other 7 as quick as you can even say your own name. Now the reason that's true is because of these 3 rules. And it's talking about corresponding angles. And if they're corresponding, if these lines were parallel and a third one came, a transversal cut it, they are all going to be congruent, which means they're going to be equal. Any alternate interior angle, well, they will be congruent. It's going to be equal. And every alternate exterior angle is also congruent. Now, those are 3 weird things that we haven't ever heard before, but we're going to talk a little bit about those right now as quickly as we can. First one we want to look at is this alternate exterior angle. Exterior is the outside. So we're looking at these angles right here, 1, 2, 7, and 8. They're on the outside of the 2 parallel lines. So here's your line A, and here's your other parallel line B. And you can see that transversal, I named him T, is cutting through those 2 lines. And they're on the outsides of their exterior. Well, right here, it said alternate exterior angles are going to be equal. Alternate means they're on the opposite side of the transversal line, and they're on the other parallel line. So angle 1, I shaded blue because this angle right here is the same as this angle right here. They are what we call alternate exterior angles. So I'm telling you, if I know angle 1 is 110 degrees, then that means angle 7 has to be 110 degrees. Now 2 and 8, those are alternate exterior angles. And if you notice that supplementary angle, if I put angle 1 and angle 2 together, it makes a straight line, doesn't it? So that's going to be 180 degrees. That's where I'm writing this here. Now that whole thing has to be 180, and I already know angle 1 is 110. If I subtract those 2 numbers, 180 for that straight line minus the 110 I already know, I know that that angle here, angle 2, is 70 degrees. And if this is 70 degrees, then this alternate exterior angle has to be 70 degrees. So you already found 4 angles as quickly as that. And remember, yesterday you talked about vertical angles. Vertical angles you found out were congruent. So now, isn't 8 vertical to 6? So you now know 6 is 70 degrees. 2 is vertical to 4, so you now know 4 is 70 degrees. You know 7 and 5 are vertical angles, so you know that has to be 110 degrees. And 1 and 3 are vertical angles, so you know that has to be 110. Do you see how fast you found all 8 angles just from that one rule? Now let's look at alternate interior angles. And again, that interior right here, that means they're the angles on the inside of the parallel lines. So you can see what I have. 4 and 6 are alternate interior. 3 and 5 are alternate interior. So that means you can easily find, again, all 8. If I just told you one angle, if I just told you angle 4 was 120, well then you automatically know angle 6, the alternate interior, is 120. Now if those are just the 2, you can easily say, well, what about this straight line here? If I put 4 and 3 together, doesn't it make a straight line? That straight line's 180 degrees. 180 minus the 120 I already know. 60 degrees is angle 3. And if angle 3 is 60 degrees, then that alternate interior angle is 60 degrees. Now again, how fast can you find the other ones? Vertical angles. 6 and 8 are vertical, so 8 is 120. 5 and 7 are vertical, so 7 is 60. 4 and 2 are vertical, so that would be 120. And 3 and 1 are vertical, so you know that's 60. Again, these are the rules that make things so much easier for us. Last one, corresponding angles. Again, corresponding means if I was able to take one line, let's say this parallel line right here, C, and I was able to pick it up and lay it directly on this line right here, D, which angles would actually sit right on top of each other? So you can see 2 and 6 would sit on top of each other. Those are called corresponding angles. 3 and 7 are sitting on top of each other, so those are corresponding angles. 1 and 5 are sitting on top of each other, so those are corresponding angles. And 4 and 8 are sitting on top of each other, so those are corresponding angles, which means they have to be the same. The one that sits on top of each other have to be the same. So again, if I gave you angle 1, and I said angle 1 was 80 degrees, well, the angle it sits on top of is angle 5, which means it's 80 degrees. Now, use your vertical angles. 1 and 3 are vertical, so you know 3 is 80. Doesn't 3 correspond with 7? Wouldn't it sit on top of each other? So it has to be 80. Now the other angles you could figure out. Again, look for those straight lines. Angle 1 and angle 2 are straight lines. They're supplementary. So that means 180 degrees. That 180 minus the one you already know here gives you 100 degrees. Now think about those vertical angles again. 2 and 4 are vertical, so now you know angle 4 is 100. You also know 4 sits on top of 8, so that has to be 100. And then you've got another vertical angle here, meaning it's got to be 100. So you can use either one of those. All 3 of those you can actually use to do what you need to find all the missing angles. Now I will tell you, this right here is my absolute favorite. Because if I have 2 parallel lines, here's 2 lines right here, And then the transversal comes and cuts that, but it cuts it at a perpendicular, meaning when it comes down, it hits it at a 90-degree angle. Well, if it hits it at a 90-degree angle, that means angle 2 is 90, angle 3 is 90, 6 is 90, 7 is 90, and they are all 90 degrees. So that one is super easy. So I'm going to do one super fast example, and then we're going to let you go on your own. So let's look at this example. If I gave you two parallel lines, there they are, and here comes the transversal, cutting it right on through. And let's name them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I gave you one angle. That's all I'm going to give you is just one. And let's see. Tyler, pick an angle for me.
2 should be 120.
Okay, so 2 is going to be 120 degrees. Now let's use everything we already know. I know what? Alternate exterior angles, which means which one is alternate exterior? Outside, other line, on the other side of the transversal, 8, you know that has to be 120 degrees. Now what about angle 1? Angle 1 and 2 make a straight line, so it's supplemental. I'm going to find angle 1 by taking the 180 for my supplementary, has to be a straight line, minus the 120 that I already know from angle 2, and you now figure it has to be 60 degrees. Now, let's see, what do you know? You can use vertical angles. Angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical, so it's 60 degrees. You also know angle 3 and angle 5 aren't vertical, but they are alternate interior angles. So that has to be 60 degrees. 5 and 7 are vertical angles, so you know that has to be 60 degrees. I'm almost done. I could use many things, but how about corresponding angles? Angle 2 corresponds. It would sit on top of angle 6, so angle 6 would be 120 degrees. Oh, vertical angles, 2 and 4. That means 4 is 120 degrees. Look how quickly you found all 8. Perfectly done, guys. I will see you at the next lesson. Good luck.